Along this wall is a good place to be.
Yeah, I figured that much. I've actually seen you hold a bit on the opposite side there where the barrel is.
Sucks. I don't use it anymore. Okay, the only reason you're alive right now is Second Wind.
Yeah, I realize.
So this is my problem with Second Wind, is it lets people get away with stupid stuff they should never get away with. So you hear a horde, and the horde can be front or back, right? And sometimes if you're really unlucky, front or back actually equals on top of you. But it really rarely does in this stretch in supply and demand. So
right.
There's got a Storm Vermin, and unfortunately you triggered it right before the horde, right? And that makes things a little bit, depending on what kind of position you get, it makes things a little cumbersome. Because you don't want to be in a tight choke if you have a Storm Vermin in there with you. So you've got options, right? You can try to fight out to somewhere else and do like a fighting retreat to thin it, or you can try to definitively move to a good stand position, a good stay and slay position. There is a good stay and slay position. It's right up the corner along the wall. Like
right, so
right
what you're saying is I should have pushed further up here instead of retreating.
Well, retreating is a fair choice. The other choice you can make here is retreat and do a fighting retreat. But the problem that you have right now is they're coming from behind, which you establish pretty quickly. When you know they're from behind.
What did you say?
I'm going to see how fast you know they're from behind. There. You know almost instantly from behind. So my decision would have been to go like forward. I'm at one. Are you watching my stream?
Yeah, I am.
Okay. So I would have gone straight forward right here and up this ramp and walked to the left. That's one choice. Another choice is to try to hold this corner right here. This corner sucks because there's elevation, and it's easy to take hits. You would have been fine. With with a one-handed sword, you would have been fine, but you would have taken some hits. So I probably would have gone up here and done a fighting retreat, but as you do a fighting retreat, you have to be very careful because they're going to climb behind you, so you have to give ground pretty generously. And then I would have retreated to a different spot. There's a spot right by the very start of the map I like. It's very safe. But your decision here, and now watch, why are you continuing to fight here? You know they're from behind, right? And you're continuing to fight here. Watch what's behind you. Ow. That's
yeah,
death.
I don't think I realized just how close they were. Which is on me. I should have kept moving.
I think you prioritize. So let's talk about a topic we didn't talk about yesterday, which is focus. You really can, I mean, the more you play, the more stuff you can pretty much autopilot, right? But the bottom line is you have a limited amount of bandwidth, which I call focus, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to choose to spend focus on combat, on slaying, versus on awareness. You spent more focus there on combat than awareness, right?
Yeah,
so
definitely.
At the start of a horde, once you get into a comfortable rhythm, the horde's trivial, right? Now, if you have a gunner, a gas, some sort of special that needs to be answered urgently, sometimes it's correct to spend your focus on trying to eliminate a threat and then hope you can pick up the pieces when you're done with it, right? That's a calculated decision. But typically, if you're not under much pressure, your first decision when you hear a new big threat on the map, like a horde, is trying to come up with the correct response to that as opposed to the stuff that's on the map right now. If you're running a one-hander, unfortunately for two-handers, you don't normally have the decision to disengage. So then you have to kind of, two-handers are much harder and a whole different beast. So let's just worry about one-handers. So with one-handers, you have a lot of decisions you can make, right? You can get away. So I would have spent my focus there asking, where do I want to do with this horde? I would have answered that question deliberately, instead of just kind of answering it as it comes. It looks like what you did is kind of, you respond to the stimuli as it presented itself. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think I was just kind of autopiloting and not thinking about what I should be doing.
Which, with a combination as powerful as Second Wind, one-handed sword, works out more often than not.
Yeah, I feel like that's carrying me in a lot of situations.
Well, that's why people play these combos, right? That's why people play Falchion with Second Wind. It's very strong. Otherwise, your combat looks nice. Good open ground kiting, or it's like a modified joust. Yeah, Second Wind save. But it's hardly gonna matter, right? Okay, so you got the trigger. This is the ogre trigger, and that's why, again, there's no ogre alive, but else I would have had you push more aggressively here. Your clear here is a little sloppy. But I guess you're looking to go around? Is that what you're doing? Okay, that's fine.
Probably.
That's fine. That's fine. You're using mobility and your blocks and stuff to give yourself space. You were giving yourself space so that you can decide what to do next. You were doing an Uda, which is perfect. What I want you to
it was a
start
patrol,
doing,
so I just wanted to get past here.
You just wanted to see what was going on. So, again, the fact that Elf, one of the best parts of mobility is you almost always have mobility to give you time to think. Does that make sense? And it gives you time and mobility to pick where you're going to fight more often than not. So use those advantages. You could have chain dodged while holding block there, and use that little tiny part of your brain to just be like, just dodge and move, just block and move, and you could have completely ignored every rat around you. Especially, don't you have second wind as your third trait?
Yeah.
It's impossible for you to take any damage from those rats unless you choose to.
Yeah, I just messed up completely.
But you see what I'm saying? Like, it's okay to say, I'm going to... Now, you have a choice to make here. If you have a long horde spawn, you're going to be sitting here for a long time doing nothing. You know there's another ogre trigger in Garden, right?
Yeah.
And you know that it's right before Garden, right? So sometimes you actually get it when you're getting close to Garden but not going down to Garden. And you know that Garden is a place where you typically get 2 to 3 Storm Vermin ambience. Sometimes you get nothing, sometimes you get a ton of ambience, right? And you know it's been over 40 seconds since the last horde. A short horde is going to hit you at the same exact time you drop down into that ogre trigger. And you know there's 3 specials that may or may not be lining up too. So you have a decision to make. On the other hand, the horde timer could be as long as 240 seconds and you're going to be sitting here doing nothing.
Right.
So you could push. And another thing to think about is that's a drop down. What does a drop down mean? It means no retreat.
Yep.
So even to get close enough to see if there's an ogre, if there's stuff down there as an ogre trigger, what I would do is I would slay aggressively to the precipice here. And if you get the ogre, that's great. You're going to run backwards as fast as you can while fighting him, right? To get out of this area, to get out of the next area, and to get back to the area right after tower drop down. We have more room to kite. I would then when I get to the guard.
I can trigger the ogre there just by going to the ledge.
Sometimes I don't think it's. I think there's like a delta. I think that there's the way ogre triggers work is there's part of the mechanism in the game, a mechanic in the game is calculating how much progression you've made. And what ogre is doing is it's saying every time it's going to be at 372 progression plus or minus 3. Does that make sense? It's not always literally at exactly the same spot. So you could
it's slightly randomized.
That's what I think, because it's not like exactly the same spot I get it every time. So sometimes you don't get it till you drop down. What I would do is I would rush aggressively towards the right before the drop down. I would survey. If I get the ogre, cool. If I don't get the ogre, I would survey. And if I could see a lot of ambience, I'd probably start picking off storm vermin and pulling them to me and wait for horde. It's a very defensive play, but it's probably what I would do because I hate.
Right.
But if there's almost no ambience, I would just rush. And if you get the ogre, so be it.
Okay. But yeah, I don't think the potential of triple special is actually in my mind as I play right here.
I mean, it's almost always possible to get it.
Yeah.
So it's impossible to know which slot that was, which is unfortunate.
As I played, I didn't consider that it was fairly likely to line up all the special spawns there.
So right now, short-ish horde is going to hit. If we go back just 1 second, let's see if we can see. It's hard to see. You actually trigger the ogre before you went down. And then you hop down anyways. Did you hear that? Listen. That's insane. I've never noticed that before. Listen.
I'll take you with me,
What? No, you didn't. No, you didn't. You just got hit. That's what it was. So one of the things I think you can do here is I think you can literally jump out and turn around and maybe even trigger that. I haven't tested it yet. Does that make sense? Like you make a little fake... I don't know if progression is calculated by when your feet touch the ground or no matter what. But I wonder if you can jump out and do this. Sometimes the trigger is even further back, by the way. Your trigger was... Boom. Wait. Was it when you hit the ground? It's when you hit the ground. Interesting. So now you have a choice to make. What are you gonna do?
Well, I stayed back here, I think, and tried to fight him here without trying to push out to trigger extra ambient rats and such. Just try to get as much damage on him as possible before anything else shows up.
Yeah, okay. So you're just going to try to DPS. Kind of, but without moving forward as much as possible to minimize ambient adds.
Yeah.
When you're all the way over here, I think almost all the specials are either going to kind of mosey this way or drop down like you did over the wall. Not through the drop down, but over the wall.
That's rat.
Yeah, something I'm noticing right now as I'm watching is that there's pretty poor visibility down here.
Yep. Well, you're on the bottom of the hill, but it's a trade-off you're going to have to make. You can get 2 shots per rotation 100% of the time.
Yeah, I'm not consistent with that.
Well, that's okay. You're gonna... There it is. If you were getting 2 hits per rotation, you probably would have made it. Okay, at this point, there's no way you're going to make it. Oh, wait, that's not true. If you get a pretty far horde, you might be able to make it by risking things. But in order to do that, it means you're going to mosey forward into whatever ambience happen to be there without paying any attention to them. And he's at 35%, and it took you... This is a very tough call. You could try to finish spiking this ogre down. You could. I probably wouldn't.
All right.
I probably
yeah.
wouldn't.
At this point, I've just accepted that I'm going to trigger all the ambient rats in the area. Probably.
That's not what I'd be doing right now. I wouldn't be continue to run backwards. What I would do is I'd run at the ogre, trigger him, dodge away from him, and slice down the adds around him, and not give up any ground. So I'd kill these 4 clan rats before I turn around.
Yeah, but the horde is coming though.
You don't even know where it is. Where are you going? You could be walking backwards right into the horde. You haven't even looked around for the horde yet.
Draw the beast's attention.
Okay, so it turns out based on the sound cue that they came from the way you went. You were. So what's your plan? What are you going to do?
Do a kite loop. Try to whittle down the horde.
What kite loop?
I
you're
sort of just wing it,
you mean
and
you're
it ends up killing me.
You're going to respond moment to moment without a plan. That's what you just told me. Your general plan
The plan is like roughly clockwise, but I'm not sure exactly where I'm going.
Okay, but in order to do that, you know that means you're going to be... You've given up. Look how much ground you've given up so fast, right? You've given up a huge amount of ground really quickly to 5 clan rats and an ogre. So by the time that horde gets to you... by the time, let me rephrase that. You're gonna have to give up the way you're giving up ground. You're gonna be putting the point where you do the turnaround. At the same time the horde hits you. Does that make sense? So you're gonna be trying to
end up going counterclockwise because of that.
But that's not okay. So you're gonna try to cut close. So one thing you could do here is make a figure 8, right? Cut earlier in towards statue, right, and then make a decision from there. Another thing you can do is keep running down. If you keep running down, you get to a drop down, right? What happens at a drop down?
Well, rats get stuck for a second as they drop down in the background animation.
So the ones that are coming
and lots
forward,
of density.
A lot of density, And what are you sitting on?
What do you mean? What I'm sitting on?
What tactical options do you have here? Look what's in your inventory.
I have a bomb.
Yeah, so that's one thing you could do. But you're giving up ground so fast. There is no reason to have given up ground this quickly. What you should be at right now is you should have the ogre, and you should have just done a little bit of pushing into him and pulling back, and then slaying the clan rats. You should literally have just a naked ogre right now. If you have a naked ogre, and everything else around it is dead, and you haven't walked backwards into ambience, that means the amount of pressure on you is pretty small. You know what that means? It means you can think.
I might be able to DPS him?
No, you're never going to be able to DPS him in time. Unless you go pure longbow, kite plus backwards into unknown things. If this was Hagbane, I'd say go for it. This is not Hagbane. Okay. You're going to get stabbed in the back maybe and just insta-dead. I mean, it could work, but you're rolling the dice, and I don't think you have to. I think you have a really high percentage chance of beating. The things you know about right now, you have a high chance of beating. By the way, there are 2 specials that could spawn any second. But that's... The amount of threat you have right now is significant enough that I wouldn't be formulating my plan around them too much. I'd be formulating my plan around what's left. This area sucks. Frame rate sucks. if you have unknown number of ambients in front of you, I would whittle down the clans in front of you in 5 seconds, 10 seconds, maybe 1 or 2 rotations. Do you know what I mean by rotation? I mean every time an ogre attacks, does his thing and attacks again, that's a rotation. And maybe 2, maybe 3 rotations, you should be able to kill all of these clan rats. And then you can notice by then if the horde's in front of you or behind you and make a decision. If it's behind you, you cut across the lawn, and then looking straight down, you cut across the lawn and you make a counterclockwise rotation, and then you probably do the drop-down bomb play. If they're in front of you, you slowly give ground to the ogre. Grudgingly give ground. You go forward, you bait the shot, you swing a couple times, you go forward, you bait the shot, you swing a few times. You do not let slave rats get knocked behind you. If he's going to do his punch move and he's going to kick rats behind you, hit them in the middle of the air. In this game, it doesn't matter if the level of stagger that's happening. The last applied stagger is the stagger that wins, right? No matter which one's more powerful. So even if he kicks them flying through the air, if you cleave them right after he does that, they're not going anywhere. So that
sounds pretty difficult to pull off.
Yeah, but you can learn it. You have the mechanical. Like you're on course to learning this level. Your decision making here is terrible, though.
Yeah.
And you let him smack you, and that takes. And look what you're going for. Why are you trying to DPS him right now? Are you kidding me? You think you're really gonna beat this timer?
Well, at this point, I'm just taking a pot shot because there's nothing around me.
You're flat.
Should I be shooting the rats instead? Is that what you're saying?
Sure. Or you could have pulled your bow out or your sword out and dodged left, and started slaying.
Right.
You have time for 2 attacks. 3 attacks. You could have no pressure on you. Now, what you're basically doing right there is you're saying, oh my god, I've got a whole bunch of problems to deal with. I'm going to put my hands over my eyes and hope for the best. Like you're...
Oh yeah, the second time I pulled the bow out was a pretty bad idea.
The first idea was bad too, and you let him hit you at the worst possible moment. The moment you needed to be on to clear those clan rats. Okay.
Okay.
So what are you doing? You're identifying like the biggest risk, the biggest threat, and that's easy to eliminate and eliminating it. Okay, but it's fine. So here, where you should be now, you have clans, but you keep giving ground to him, right? You have tons of block and tons of dodge. Move into him a little bit and pull back to bait the shot. You have second wind, right?
Yeah.
You're not dying unless you get stuck in the corner. It's okay. It's okay if you eat a ground pound. You got 2/3 health in a draft. You're very unlikely to do so, but it's okay to risk it. And you could be slaying and slowing down right now instead of giving ground.
Right.
Let's see what you do here. Fine. Okay. And you kite back into the horde. You kite back into the horde. Now, does that mean you're going to try to go along this wall? Let's see.
I think that's what I do.
So by your movement, instead of coming up the wall, they've come up the middle. So you're going to try to go around, and then when you do that, you're going to start cutting right. And when you cut right, they're going to cut you off, and you're going to have a hard time getting back up this hill. But maybe if you cut narrow. If you cut around this well right now, you'll be okay. Don't go deeper into the... Because, again, you don't go deep into invaginations. If you do, you never get out. Look how much trash there is to your right. This is very dangerous. Oh my god, this cut is so dangerous. Now what you could have done is jumped onto this well, jumped, and then gone through. That you could have done. And now you have to waste your bomb on minimum density. It's significant, but kind of like minimum density. But you might be okay.
Yeah, Vera tried to get onto the well to throw the bomb from above, but I messed it up.
It's a tough jump. It's a tough jump. Or tough, yeah. So now it's okay. It's still okay. Because you're still elf, right? You're still elf. You still have elf mobility. So what do you want to do here? You want to get close. So you got rats coming at you and an ogre right behind who's faster than the rats substantially. You want to time when you go forward such that you are going forward when the clan rats and the ogre are at the same spot. So you can bait everything into attacking you at the same time while slashing the clans. And then everything's lined up, then you pull back neatly, and then you come forward, and there's going to be another wave of clan rats behind the first wave. You come forward and you slay those a little bit, and then you pull back and repeat. Linearizing the fight and continuing to move towards the left because you're going to be getting flanked to the left.
So you basically want me to kind of joust while baiting the ogre slams.
Yes. You have to joust the horde and ogre at the same time. And you have to stop going into this tight spot. Do you know why you keep getting caught here? Look at the geometry.
Because I'm a moron.
Look at the geometry.
Yeah, I shouldn't be there.
You should have gone deeper, maybe. Or you could have gone around the ogre to the right. You could have come in, and then you're kind of going to the left, but you could have gone in, baited him, and then dodged back around a little bit and walked around him. It's actually possible. Like, if you watch me like do my Kazakh Road and stuff, there's a couple times I've had it. You know that ogre that comes, where is it? Do you know where the upper and lower path come back together? So let's go to the statue of Elia in your mind, right? The big one?
Right, yeah.
Come back the grim room behind that, right? And then come back one more room, the big open room that you only touch a little tiny bit, and there's a huge pit there. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know, you get that ogre there, that horrible ogre there?
That one, yeah.
I can get stuck, quote unquote, stuck in one of those corners with a two-handed weapon and dance around him and get out again. So can you, especially with Elf, right? So it is possible to get around the ogre in tight spots if you bait the hell out of him the way you want him to be. Meaning you don't let him get to you. Like, if you're in a little corner, here's your little box. He's coming in right here. You got to hit him, stop him when he's right here, dodge back as he attacks, and then skirt through and then dodge, and then skirt through and then dodge. I don't know. It's hard to explain.
Right.
Okay, but anyways, this tight spot you're going through is sucky.
Yeah.
This jump, you've noticed this jump is hard to make on the fly, so you try to skip it. Now, notice there is a hole right here.
Give me a couple of seconds to catch up.
There's not a hole. Why is there no hole? Where did the hole go? There was a hole.
Because I stayed too long. Stayed too long?
Yeah. So the other thing is deciding when to joust and when to run. Obviously.
And jousting in that tight spot is a very bad idea.
Correct. There you go. You're already putting all this together. You want to joust in an open area. Second wind is so retarded. There's no.
It is. I should be dead like 3 times.
Dead 100 times over. You know why you died here, by the way? Do you see what happened?
Yeah, I got caught on one rat, I think.
Where did that rat come from?
And I didn't see him.
Where did that rat come from?
He was probably slammed ahead of me.
Yep. You saw him? Right there. I think you just saw him. I might be crazy, but I think I just saw him. One went over your head right there. I think I just saw him get catapulted.
Oh yeah, I think I see which one you mean.
But it's possibly just got catapulted right there, but I think I saw him. It was unlikely, though. It was unlikely one rat got pushed.
Actually,
here.
I think he got slammed with me.
Yeah, he might have just got slammed with you. That's the other alternative. Okay, but this was totally salvageable. It's just you had to pick your spots. This is where it's really tight. Where it's tight, you go really fast. Where it's open, that's where you joust.
Yeah.
You could have won this fight. And there's like 4 different ways you could have won it.
I think in my mind I was counting on being able to jump over the hedges a bit more, but the rats just climbed on them and blocked me a lot.
Okay. Why don't we call it here? That's probably enough, right?
Yeah.
So we learned a lot about how to tackle ogres. Ogre density. We talked about timings, and I don't expect you to focus too much on timings for a while. Especially if you're using second wind mobility weapons. We talked about using the resources you have to give yourself space to think and make decisions and being deliberate in your decisions.
Right.
Your combat looked good. So to me, it was mostly about learning a new way to fight ogre and being more deliberate in how you approach things. Again, this play right here was so stubborn. So many times what I'm seeing is that things change and you don't change with them at all. It's like you don't even react. It's like, no, I'm going to keep doing whatever plan I started doing because that was a good plan. But it's not a good plan anymore. Right? So I don't even need you to worry too much about anticipation right now in terms of timers. Right? I shouldn't have even talked so much about that. Anticipation is the next level. The level I want that you're on right now you need to work on is reacting better. And I don't mean reacting to the stimuli that's right in your face. I mean when you hear the subtle things, formulating a plan. I know you do it with assassins. You need to start doing it with everything else too. I see you do it with assassins. I see you do it with packmasters, obvious game enders. But Ogre Horde is a game ender too, and it's an answerable game ender if you formulate a plan.
Right.
Okay, enough babbling. Good. Thank you for submitting.
Yep, thank you for coaching me.
So everybody, thank Zero for being in the hot seat for an hour. And if you would like to ask him any questions now or offer, sympathy, this would be a good time. What else? I know a couple other people said yes. Snag says thank you. If you also are interested in